Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the best RPGs I've ever played. Its launch was a disaster. Buggy, broken, and borderline unplayable. But after years of updates, one incredible DLC, and a splash of genuine love from CD Projekt Red, it's transformed into something truly special. Cyberpunk 2077 is now one of the most visually stunning, narratively gripping, and mechanically entertaining RPGs ever made. After a disastrous launch, years of dedicated updates and refinement have transformed it into the experience it was always meant to be. A bold, immersive game that delivers on narrative depth, player choice, and satisfying moment-to-moment gameplay. Rather than chasing trends, Cyberpunk doubles down on what makes role-playing games truly memorable. Consequence-driven storytelling, compelling characters, and a living, reactive world. When Cyberpunk 2077 launched, the gameplay systems felt like they struggled to keep up with the power fantasy that had been promised. Weapons and ranged combat didn't always feel right, often feeling like some shots just didn't register, and weapons didn't feel like they had any weight behind them. It just felt clunky. AI was practically non-existent, with enemies acting completely clueless, and police would often appear out of thin air when spawning. It really dragged you out of the immersion, and stealth was also an issue. Being inconsistent, sometimes enemies could look straight at you and not even realise. On other occasions, they would just constantly detect you even when they couldn't properly see you. Overall, the state of the gameplay systems at launch was underwhelming. However, fast forward to today and the game has completely transformed. Gunplay now feels responsive and tight, like your shots actually land and hit their targets instead of bouncing off. Melee combat is also satisfying, although niche. Wielding a katana and getting up close and personal with enemies is exhilarating. And stealth actually functions as intended, allowing for full ghost builds with a stealth system that works instead of feeling frustrating. The gameplay systems have been fixed or fully revamped, bringing with them fun and, more importantly, functioning gameplay. What really elevates the gameplay now is the build crafting. The updated perk tree and cyberware systems encourage experimentation. You can go full netrunner and fry people's brains from across the street, or become a cyber psycho with gorilla arms, leaking into combat and smashing everything in sight. Every build feels viable and, more importantly, fun. Vehicle combat was another massive game changer. It's a small feature in theory, but in practice it's the kind of addition that breathes life into a world like Night City. You're no longer just a passenger in a pretty world. You are actively navigating, fighting, and surviving in it. Even things like enemy AI and police responses have been improved. The city now reacts to you in a way that feels more grounded. Enemies flank, suppress, and pursue more intelligently. The police aren't perfect, but they no longer feel like cardboard cutouts spawning out of thin air. In short, Cyberpunk 2077's gameplay finally delivers on the power fantasy it promised back in 2020. It took time, maybe too much time, but what we have now is a system that's deep, reactive, and genuinely enjoyable to play around with. Night City was always visually impressive. Even at launch, you couldn't deny how stunning the world looked. Towering mega buildings, neon-soaked streets, and grime-soaked alleyways straight out of a dystopian dream. But for a long time, it felt more like a stage than a city. Beautiful, yes, but hollow. That's changed. Today, Night City feels alive. NPCs no longer walk around aimlessly or glitch out at random. There's actual variety in what people say and do. Pedestrians get into fights, run from danger, gather in small groups, even interact with the world in small, subtle ways that were completely absent before. There's a rhythm to the city now. Different districts feel truly distinct, not just visually, but culturally. You can feel the difference between the corporate sterility of Corpo Plaza, the grit of Watson, and the raw danger of Pacifica. It's not just set dressing anymore, it immerses you. Dynamic weather and time of day cycles play into this too. Walking through Japantown in the rain feels completely different from cruising through Badlands under a rising sun. And thanks to better performance and AI, the city doesn't collapse under its own weight. It invites you to explore it. And most importantly, it finally feels like a city that remembers your actions. The side content, the gigs, the random encounters, they feel personal. Characters reference your past decisions. Fixers comment on your growing reputation. You're not just a V, you're someone in this world now. In a way, Night City finally became what CD Projekt Red always said it was, a character in its own right. Phantom Liberty isn't just DLC, it's the reason Cyberpunk 2077 earned a second chance. It takes everything the base game wanted to be and delivers it with polish, purpose, and power. Set in Dogtown, a lawless and militarized district sealed off from the rest of Night City, Phantom Liberty immediately feels distinct. The stakes are higher, the tone is darker, and the story leans hard into spy thriller territory. You are working for the Noosa now, caught between rebel ideals and corporate espionage. New characters like Solomon Reed, played brilliantly by Idris Elba, feel just as iconic as Johnny Silverhand. And speaking of Johnny, this expansion deepens your relationship with him, pushing his arc in new emotional directions. But it's not just the story that stands out, it's the systems. Phantom Liberty introduces revamped skill trees, stealth mechanics, vehicle combat, and some of the best designed missions in the game. Choices feel weighty again, morality gets murky, and the consequences, they stick. Dogtown itself is dense and dangerous, filled with tightly packed alleyways, guarded checkpoints, and underground activity. It's the most vertical, layered design CD Projekt has delivered, and it shows how far they've come in understanding how to make environments that challenge and reward exploration. In short, Phantom Liberty isn't an add-on, it's a statement. It says, this is the game we always meant to make. There's no sugarcoating it. Cyberpunk 2077 had one of the most infamous launches in gaming history. Bugs, crashes, missing features, entire systems that felt half-baked. On base consoles, the game was borderline unplayable. The hype train that had built for nearly a decade came crashing down in a mess of performance issues and broken promises. For many, Cyberpunk became the poster child for overambition and corporate mismanagement. But here's the thing, CD Projekt didn't walk away. Over the next few years, they committed to fixing it, not just patching bugs, but overhauling entire mechanics. AI was rebuilt, police systems were redesigned, skill trees were restructured, UI and inventory systems were streamlined. They even added full-blown features like vehicle combat and improvised stealth, not just tweaks but transformations. By the time Phantom Liberty released, the game wasn't just working, it was thriving. The 2.0 update redefined how it plays, and players who gave up on Cyberpunk at launch started returning in droves, discovering a game that finally lived up to its potential. That kind of redemption arc, it's rare. Most studios would have moved on, but CDPR doubled down, not with empty apologies, but with meaningful change. Today, Cyberpunk 2077 stands as a living example of what post-launch support can be. Not just damage control, but rebirth. Looking back, Cyberpunk 2077 isn't just a story about a video game. It's a story about failure, redemption, and the long road to greatness. Yes, it launched as a mess. And yes, the criticisms at that time were valid. But what makes this game special isn't just its setting or mechanics, it's the journey it's been on. It went from being one of the most disappointing releases of the decade to one of the most impressive turnarounds in modern gaming. For me, it's now a game I think about often. I replay it, I admire it, not just because of Night City or the flashy cyberware, but because it earned its second chance. It grew into something honest, something complete, something that finally delivered on the promise that had me excited all those years ago. And that's rare. Cyberpunk 2077 taught me that sometimes the games we love the most aren't the ones that get it right the first time, they're the ones that fight to get it right. If you haven't played Cyberpunk 2077 since launch, or maybe you've never picked it up at all, now is the time. This isn't just a better version of what was promised, it's a complete experience. A living, breathing world full of stories, systems, and atmosphere that feels entirely its own. Whether you're diving into Phantom Liberty, or just cruising through Night City listening to Samurai, there's never been a better moment to step into the world of Cyberpunk. It might have started as a cautionary tale, but today, Cyberpunk 2077 stands as one of the best games I've ever played. Thanks for watching.